Welcome, everyone. Diving in today to a topic that might not be on everyone's radar, but it's one with some serious consequences.
Mm.
We're talking about illegal marijuana cultivation and specifically how it's impacting our public lands.
Yeah, it's interesting how this kind of throws a wrench in our typical thinking about threats to the environment. Like, we
Yeah.
often jump to things like pollution, maybe climate change, but this is organized crime actually moving in on some of our, well, most valuable natural spaces.
Definitely not the first thing you'd think of.
Right.
So to really get a handle on this, we're going deep into Lieutenant John Norris Jr.'s book, Hidden War. Now, he was a game warden in California, and he actually led a special team focused on marijuana enforcement, so he's seen it all firsthand.
And what his book does really well is it brings that human element to the forefront, particularly with the story of Debbie Gregg. She was living in the Sierra foothills, and she unfortunately was murdered, and it all traced back to an illegal grow-op that was nearby.
Wow, that really hits home that this is not a victimless crime at all. You're talking about violence, fear coming right into these communities. No wonder he calls it a hidden war.
Exactly, and it's like the enemy, if you want to call it that, it's always changing. Norrs lays out how these operations have gone from, small-time grows to these massive, sophisticated businesses, often with cartels calling the shots.
Cartels, though, operating in places like Silicon Valley. It's not what you usually picture. What was it about that area that was so attractive to them, according to Norris?
Well, being close to those big urban centers is a big deal. Think about it. Easier to move their product, easier to move money. And it's kind of ironic, but that tech boom, it created a demand. And these guys, they're all about taking advantage, right? Maximizing profit. Just like any business, really, just a lot more dangerous, obviously.
So even with legalization happening, these cartels, they saw an opening to, I don't know, keep their hands in things.
Exactly, you got it. Legalization, which, the idea was to cut back on the black market, but it kind of backfired. Norris talks about this in chapter 10, how they shifted gears. They started using those legal loopholes to set up shop on private land instead.
Classic unintended consequences. It's like this constant back and forth cat and mouse between law enforcement and these, well, they're incredibly adaptable.
Absolutely, yeah. But before we get too far into that, let's maybe switch gears a little and talk about the environmental damage, because that's a huge part of this hidden war. Moores doesn't hold back in the book, and, the research backs him up.
You're talking about that report we have, the one on the impact of all this cultivation on public and tribal lands in California.
That's the one. What the study shows lines up with what Norris saw firsthand. Banned pesticides being used, huge amounts of water being diverted, and then there's the rodenticide, just used everywhere, which has this terrible ripple effect on the whole ecosystem.
So it's not even just about clearing out trees to make room for these grow sites. It's the poison they leave behind. One of the pesticides Norris mentions, carbofuran, that's something they use to kill lions in Africa. Hard to imagine what that does to wildlife here.
It's a scary thought, and it's true, it's indiscriminate. It gets into the water, the soil, the whole food chain. Norris talks about finding dead deer, birds, even bears all poisoned.
It's heartbreaking, really. And what's even more concerning is that it doesn't just stay in that one spot. It has lasting impacts, right?
Unfortunately, yes. The research is clear about that. Even when a grow site is shut down, those poisons can hang around for months, years even. They found traces in animals miles away from where the original site was. It's like this spreading wave of poison. It makes you think about the long-term consequences for those animals, but also for the whole balance of the ecosystem.
It's a pretty grim picture, and it's easy to feel overwhelmed by all this. But it's not all doom and gloom, right? Norris talks about the game wardens, the ones on the front lines of this, risking their lives to try to stop it. You're right. And Norris, he doesn't shy away from those dangers at all. We're not just talking about environmental damage, right? These game wardens are going up against some seriously dangerous people, often in the middle of nowhere.
And it's easy to forget about that side of it. These officers are literally putting their lives on the line, and not just for the environment, but for the people who live nearby, too, like we were talking about with Debbie Gregg.
Yeah, and Norris, he tells it like it is.
Yeah.
Booby traps, shootouts, guys with automatic weapons. It's intense stuff. The kind of thing you think only happens in movies.
I know. It really makes you think. But through it all, what really comes through is how dedicated these officers are. And tough,
Yeah.
They just keep going, always adjusting, trying to stay one step ahead.
Speaking of adapting, hidden war, it doesn't just lay out the problems. Norris talks about how law enforcement is fighting back, and those specialized units you mentioned, those seem like a big part of that. What can you tell us about them?
Right, so Norris goes into detail about how these units came about, like the CDFW's MET-T team, the Marijuana Enforcement Team, and the Delta Team. They were the first of their kind in the whole country. These guys, they train for everything. Tactical shooting, wilderness survival, how to gather evidence to really build a case.
So it's not just about catching a few growers in the act. They're trying to take down the entire operation.
Exactly. And keep in mind, they're working with limited resources covering huge areas. Norris talks about how important the canine units are. Those dogs aren't just mascots, they're partners, and they save lives out there.
It's amazing what they can do. I remember reading about how they can sniff out hidden people and even buried water lines. Incredible.
Right. It shows how high the stakes are on both sides. And it underscores the need for everyone to work together. Norris talks a lot about how important that is, getting agencies like local law enforcement, the DEA, even the National Guard all on the same page.
Wow, sounds like a huge effort. But this isn't just happening in California, right?
Unfortunately not. Norris' book is about California, but this is a nationwide problem. Appalachia, the Pacific Northwest, same issues. Environmental damage, danger, resources being destroyed.
It's a wake-up call. Even with legalization, there are still people who will choose the illegal route if they think they can get away with it. So what can people do? I mean, we've talked about the environmental destruction, the risks to those game wardens, the problems with legalization. If someone's listening to this, what can they actually do to help?
That's really what Norris grapples with in the book. It's tough, right? Because you see all this and it feels so big, so overwhelming, but he keeps coming back to awareness. Like, that's where it starts.
So not just knowing about it, but really getting it, understanding how complex it is,
Yeah.
how far-reaching the consequences are.
Right. Like, if you're out hiking, camping, knowing the signs of an illegal grow, reporting anything suspicious, it all makes a difference.
See something, say something, but for our public lands.
Exactly. And it's bigger than just that. Supporting organizations fighting this fight, pushing for policies that protect the environment, our elected officials, they need to hear from us.
So being informed voters, making good choices about what we buy, even just talking to people we know, it all adds up.
It does. Because when we know more, we can do more. And those game wardens, everyone working on this, they need us to step up. And it's not just about, saving one type of tree or a pretty view. It's about protecting this incredible legacy we have for everyone who comes after us.
It really makes you think. Hidden war, it shines a light on something most of us never see. But, like we've been talking about, it's not hopeless. Those game wardens putting in the work, new ways of doing things, people starting to pay attention, it gives you hope that we can protect these places.
I think so too. It's a good reminder that even when things look really tough, there are people out there fighting the good fight, and they need our help.
Well said. So next time we're out there enjoying those amazing public lands, let's all take a minute to think about what's at stake and what we can do to help protect them. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.